Oh, I guess I have to unmute. Well, hello. It's Spec Sheet. I'm Michael Van Deven. He's Curtis. Hi, Curtis.
Hey, it's the only podcast where muting is optional.
You know, it's just kind of crazy. Like, literally, as the countdown timer was at the 10-second mark, my niece texted me to tell me she's on her way over here to pick up my children. And then I had to tell my children about these newly established plans. It was just a mess. 10 seconds before air. But do you see the efficiency with which I rectified all of that? Just boom, no more problems. It's gone. It was a problem. Now it isn't. Anyway, it's Spec Sheet. Used to be the Spec Sheet. Now it's just Spec Sheet. I think I'm always going to have a hard time. Well, not always. I mean, the human mind can adjust to any change, but it's going to be hard to adjust to that.
We will always be Spec Sheet. It's just we also accept and will acknowledge the in front of it. We won't acknowledge of Spec Sheet or and Spec Sheet, but the Spec Sheet, yes.
Is it a little pretentious on our part to make such a subtle change? Not necessarily just in the fact that the change is subtle, but the change itself, removing the. Are we pretentious for doing that?
I hope so.
Are we trying too hard?
I think, how about it was just that was the domain that got registered and that was the account.
You know what? Good point.
So,
you know how many times that has probably forged the direction into the future for various enterprises and endeavors throughout history.
I mean, think about
the availability of a domain name.
Think about Apple. Phone.com wasn't available, so they put an I in front of it. They didn't put an A, Apple. They just put an I in front of it. iMac, all of that. It wasn't because of anything special or smart. It was just what was available.
Someone said that as Walks at Night says that this intro is so groovy, as we had the 5-minute countdown happening, and I was just kind of wondering, are they hearing something? Because I heard nothing but silence.
Yeah, so they hear what is playing with that countdown, which is definitely groovy. Walks at Night got it right.
Oh, was it? I wish I could have partaken in the groove.
Well, so you need to make sure if you want to, but then don't run into the same problems I did as I played with my Rodecaster and all the settings for it. But if you have your browser, your system audio playing back into your channel for output, then you'd hear it. But if you do that, make sure you don't unmix minus it so that you're sending it back to the stream.
Curtis mentioned the Rodecaster. It might be good to mention what the Rodecaster is for just a moment.
I mean, this thing is a game changer in terms of being able to live stream at any kind of quality. Did you just see a weird glitch on my video?
Yeah, you basically right now are doing what I was doing last week.
Yeah, okay. So
in the past, when we've podcasted, we had to get these Behringer mixers that had no digital, maybe not Behringer, but I always used Behringer. Because they're cheap. Yeah. And 2 years after you buy them, you realize why they're cheap. You're either replacing caps inside the power supply, which I did do on more than one occasion to Behringer mixers, or you get dust worked down into the sliders, the pots, short for potentiometer. You get dust worked down in there, and next thing you know, the metal contacts aren't connecting the way they used to, and you're hearing as you slide anything up or down. It's a big, fat disaster. And in addition, because those Behringer mixers don't have any sort of a digital element to them, you had to have some way to get audio from the mixer into your computer or whatever device you're using. And it's got to become digitized. It's got to go from being analog audio to a digital signal at some point, and that's what you would use an audio interface for. So now you've got a separate piece of hardware sitting on your desk, cable running from the mixer to the interface to the computer, and then you've got to have audio going out from your computer to the interface to the, oh my God.
It's a mess.
And then if you wanted to have callers, let's say, well, naturally you don't want your callers to be on the same channel on the mixer that your co-host is, or maybe the same channel that your audio from your PC that you happen to play during the show is on. So you get another audio interface, and then you have more cables so that the callers are on a separate channel. Oh no, now again, as I just mentioned a second ago, I want to be able to play audio from the PC. There's a third audio interface. So for all those years that you and I were podcasting, I literally had 3 gigantic audio interfaces stacked up right here next to my mixer, and I would have just there were probably, it could have been a mile of cable I had. I mean, it literally could have.
And
now we've got these.
Point.
Now we've got these Roadcasters made by the company Rode, R-O-D-E, which you may have heard of. They make a lot of microphone supplies, mic arms. They even make microphones now. They've gotten really far deeper into the audio industry product-wise. Product versatility-wise, I guess, if you want to say, over the years, from just being simple mic arm manufacturers or whatever, to making things like this Rodecaster, which is a mixer that has all of those audio interfaces that I described to the listening audience just now internally. So there's nothing on my desk. I have one cable going from the Rodecaster to my computer, and that's it. That's it.
That's amazing.
And when you call in tonight, which, by the way, the phone number is 424-672-7594. That is 424-672-7594. If you want to call in, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm getting super annoyed with my internet connection right now.
Are you really?
Yeah.
That's a shame. Well, it's not bothersome to me as a viewer looking at you. I know it's bothering you.
Yeah, like trying to move around with a tool we're using called Restream.io, like every click is so slow. Like you are coming through pretty smoothly, but I can tell for me how bad it is. And I noticed that we had a comment from In the Blues saying that turn my audio
Turn his audio up, MV. So I don't have control over that.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this is that everyone is
finally Curtis is happy after all these years of
no, I mean I really
aggression on my part.
In putting it in perspective, I would much rather you be in control of all audio routing and levels because you could do that way better. But it is nice though that like we each have our own independent connection using like live streaming tools now the way they are. Anyone can connect to us with their microphone, their phone, or video too. Like we can bring someone on to this stream so easily. I brought my microphone closer, so hopefully that helps. So let me know.
Using this Rodecaster, not only does it have all of these channels, but it's also got this pad bank, which you can cause it to play a sound when you tap on a particular pad, or you can cause it to change your voice. There's a voice changer. You can have it do any number of things. You can have it change scenes. So, for instance, I hit this button here on my Rodecaster, and it's changing things in the video that you're looking at. I mean, that's unbelievable. It's such a huge leap forward. This Rodecaster Pro 2, by the way, is the one I have. Curtis has a variant of this one.
Yeah, I've got the Duo, which is very similar, but it drops 2 of the 4 inputs to it. And for the faders, how many faders do you have? Do you have 6 total that are all assignable?
11-7.
11-7, great. That's
1, 2, 3, 4. I've never really counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm a little bit dyslexic. Because sometimes when I see grouped things together, bunched up, and I have to like scan across them, I get all like almost like
make me count.
Almost like when you looked at the fences and your eyes, you looked at the chain link fence and your eyes would cross just ever so slightly one way or the other, and next thing you know, it's 3D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus there 3 virtual channels.
Yeah, so I have 4, and that's fine because like back in the day when we used to do the other podcasts we would have, I would sometimes do a subpar version of hosting when you weren't available. And
it was terrible.
It was. It really like everyone knows. People are saying
nobody liked that.
That it was definitely like not even second rate, more like third to fourth rate.
Nobody enjoyed that.
But like with it, I don't need to have any of these extra inputs. Like you probably have more than just your microphone connected to you. I know you have your phone too for taking callers. But do you have any other devices?
Dude, I've totally got a smartphone.
You have a smartphone?
I have a smartphone. I got one.
Nice.
It's got a big screen, and there's no keyboard on it. Just take a moment to soak this up. There's no keyboard, and you just tap on the screen. I mean, and every time you hit a button, the letter gets real big to show you which one you hit. I never saw this coming.
Yeah, I mean, look at the future of technology. It's amazing. You actually just transitioned into one of my articles, too. I'm getting used to wearing in-ears for this, so I'm going to keep messing with my ear constantly. Just deal with
Oh,
it.
I just noticed that. You're wearing in-ears. Yeah.
I am, yeah. Well,
They're
because like,
vastly
you're a
superior. You know, I noticed that if I
mean, I
wear
do
the
like
big cans, it like smushes my face and makes my face look even fatter than it actually normally would look.
I definitely don't need that, but like my hat
I kind of
looks
felt
funny.
like this is a video presentation. I'd like to at least look marginally less fat. So I bought these, but I got them on Amazon, and they're only $20, and they are the best sounding headphones I own. I'm sorry,
Nice.
we kind of
Well,
tangented a little bit.
finish
Do you want to
this,
go back to your Roadcaster thing? I'm sorry.
Well, just that I have the Duo, which is the smaller version, which is really nice because I started with the Roadcaster 2, and I'll give you a cautionary tale in the process of this, but I got the Roadcaster 2 just like you at first. But the thing annoyed me because I only need my mic and then my headphones and then the USB outputs to it. And like, I don't need my desk space taken up by this big device. So I'm a member of multiple like groups on like Facebook and Reddit for Rode. And somebody there said they wanted the bigger one where I have the smaller.
Ooh.
Yeah, they want the bigger one and they have the smaller one. I'll get it right. And they wanted to trade. So like I ended up trading devices with a dude on the internet. That was so dumb and risky. Don't ever do that. But it worked out. I got a brand new.
Sometimes you just get lucky, you know?
And it worked out. I mean, like we went through the process of, you know, man, I can see my video stuttering. But yeah, we went through the process of courting each other for quite a long time before we actually pulled the trigger on this marriage, and it worked out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm happy because.
Did you get any blood tests done before, or do they even do that anymore? Really, is that a thing anymore?
I don't know. That's a good.
People getting a blood test before they get married.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 25 years since I got married, so I don't know. A lot of things have changed since then.
How the years fly.
I know, isn't it amazing?
It really is.
I mean, I was 12 years old.
I got married in 2007. Boy, I had to think about that for a moment, didn't I? My goodness.
See, it wasn't even the 2000s when I got married. I got married
17 years ago. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, time does like, yeah, we could talk about time dilation there too at some point. But so you mentioned your phone and was basically joking around about the advancements that you have. But I wanted to talk about this comes from VentureBeat. So Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, this is his opinion of the Apple Vision Pro. He says it's the second most impressive tech that's existed since the iPhone. And there's a really funny, bad picture of someone taking a Vision Pro and slapping it on his face in the picture. But I wanted to talk about that. So we've had a week now since the Vision Pro came out. What's your opinion based on what you've seen so far about the world?
Well, I can't get past the fact that you, when looking at a virtual Mac display on this thing, are not given the full resolution you could potentially be given in terms of the pixel density they've chosen to go with on the virtual display that they show you. I have a hard time getting past that. And then the other problem I have a hard time getting past is this idea that you're not going to be able to use a Bluetooth mouse with this thing. You've only got the ability to use the trackpad. To me, I thought, okay, if you want to prattle on and on about how this is actually a full-blown computer, it just happens to be in the form factor of goggles on your face. Well, out of the other side of your mouth, could you also talk about how I'm actually able to do the things with it that a computer is able to do? Because not allowing that is an entirely capricious and arbitrary decision, entirely, I'm sure, tied to profitability in some way for Apple at the end of this trail. And I can't quite connect what, although, no, you can't even use the magic bullcrap mouse that Apple sells, the one that no one really wants because ergonomically it makes no sense whatsoever. And oh, by the way, you have to flip it, upside down to charge it? Isn't that right?
That's still ridiculous. Yeah, that drives me crazy.
There are certain things I think Apple does to their users to just say... they from time to time just like to give their users a swift kick to the beanbag, just to show them that they will continue being Apple's bitch and purchasing their products and using their services and saying nice things about those products on the internet for everybody else to hear. They know they're going to continue doing that, but it's a self-congratulatory, a self-reassuring thing to just bitch somebody out like that by making them charge their mouse upside down or not being able to use a Bluetooth mouse on the headset and know that they're just going to take it and they're going to put up with it.
Yeah, how ironic that they switched almost everything now to, well, no, everything except for that mouse to USB-C. But you still, if you buy the highest end Mac, you're spending thousands of dollars on a Studio or a Pro, and you want that mouse, you still have to use Lightning for it. So you still have to use a cable that isn't relevant for any other current devices that you would buy. The other thing I wanted to mention too that drives me crazy in terms of irrelevant, or it seems to me irrelevant hardware locking. So Snazzy Labs, I don't know if you ever watch them on YouTube or follow on Twitter, but he does a lot of stuff with Mac reviews and technology. And when he bought his, he had an Intel Mac and found out that whole demo that they show where you just look at your Mac screen, whether it's a Studio display or a MacBook Pro, and it just automatically will pick it up if it's on your account and will bring that in as a virtual display. That doesn't work with the Intel Macs. It only works with M-based Macs. So the only way to do it is to screencast.
Well, what do you think is the cause of that?
Well, I'm sure it's something with the way they built the software for it that they didn't build.
But do you think it's a choice or is it a limitation that they would prefer not to have?
I think it's a choice that they made because they're phasing out all of their x64 developers, so they just don't care. Like all those people have probably been.
But isn't that something to think you could have spent so many thousands and thousands of dollars on a Mac as recently as what, 2020?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, well, you can still get it.
You can still go on Apple's right now. You can go to the refurb section where I bought my Mac here that I'm using, my 15-inch MacBook Air. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, it drives me crazy. So I have a large language model program that I use that works perfectly fine on my i7 Windows machine. I try to run it on my Mac, which is Intel based, and I can't run it. It says I have to have an M based Mac.
That's amazing.
It drives me crazy because like this thing is perfectly fine spec wise, but I thought that was great that one of the key features to me, because I'm a monitor nerd. Like I have on the setup I'm sitting in front of right now, I've got a total of 6 monitors connected. Well, it's set up. They're not all connected to my Mac because my Mac is limited. But yeah, like, so I love monitors and I love big monitors. So I thought the Vision Pro at some point, once they come, down in price and they have a less, whatever, I'm not gonna pay $3,500 for this device is what I'm saying. Once they get down to about $1,000 device, then I would buy it just for the idea of having a huge screen. If the resolution was 4K, then I would be set. I wouldn't have my big monitor configuration anymore. But my MacBook doesn't work with it. I'm going to have to trade it in for a M-based Mac. And my Mac, when you go to Apple's trade-in program, it's not worth anything. It's worth a couple $100. Like Best Buy will give me $750 for it, but Apple would give me like $220 or something, $225, and it's in perfect shape. And it's a 2020 Mac.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm just sitting here imagining myself being somebody who purchased an Intel Mac in 2020 or even today off of the refurb site. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on some of these machines. I'm just imagining myself as the owner of one of them and sitting here in 2024, only, let's say, 4 years removed from having purchased this thousands of dollars machine. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching the company that I purchased this from, the company who took my money, to whom I gave my money. And I'm watching them abandon me as they are ending compatibility with their newest, freshest, most popular products on a product that I just purchased a short 4 years ago. And I wonder to myself, is this maybe not a moment that pushes some people out of the Apple ecosystem?
No, it won't be. It won't me either.
I mean, you don't even think a smidge. I mean,
no, because there's still Apple.
Just out of sheer anger and resentment, because any other platform or ecosystem, whatever the buzzword is that we want to use to describe the bullcrap that Apple has going, anyone else doing this would be essentially drawn and quartered for everybody to see, and they would in many ways have a tough way forward as an enterprise of any sort. But Apple, I think you're right. I mean, my instincts are that you're right. Nothing's going to happen
because we've been trained. Like, this isn't the first time. I've had Macs all the way back to the first color Macintosh.
But this is worse than anything else, though.
But wait, hold on.
When they went from PowerPC to Intel, I guess there was a big thing.
Oh, that was huge, yeah. I mean, because I went through that. I went through having Mac OS 7, which was great. 8 was okay. 9 started to fall apart. And then OS X came out. Well, I had to buy a completely different computer because it switched, complete platforms at that point. But you actually walked me right into my next story because it's ironic to look at the prism. So here Apple sells expensive hardware and software basically free. That's the cherry on top to go into the Apple ecosystem, is that you have this marriage of hardware and software, but they purposely limit pieces of it and they leave out functionality that the average person would just expect to be there. Well, let's jump over to the Windows side. They're not clean from this. They have blood on their hands too, in the world of coming out with operating systems that screw people over, not communicating the hardware changes from one operating system to another. And with that, right now, this is from xdadevelopers.com, Microsoft's brand new PC manager, and this is for Windows 11, actually will slow your PC down. So think about like Task Manager today. Their new Task Manager has a prefetch folder that's supposed to go through and help clean up and prepare your system. Well, this thing actually slows your machine down. So here you have Microsoft.
While it's running, or once it's done with it, what it did?
Well, it slows your PC down. So let me go deep into this here. So
I run it. It does what it does, and then I close it. It's finished. I close it completely. The process ends. My computer is now slower than it was before this happened.
Yeah, so this is as spotted by NeoWin. The Microsoft PC Manager comes with a deep clean option. This aims to go through your PC and clear out any files that are no longer needed, thus freeing up space and speeding up your PC's performance. The problem is
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I know. The problem is it may end up actually making your Windows PC slower. So just on the Windows side, it's not like they're absolved from it too. It's just they don't build the hardware. Like, this is where they have, they believe, a scapegoat in the process, because they're not building most of the hardware that you're using your laptop or desktop. Man, my camera or my internet's bugging me. I keep wanting to say camera because I'm seeing myself stutter. But anyway, they're not absolved of this too. You're right. Let me just
just don't look at it. It's not going to get better. There's nothing you can do about it.
All my monitors. Do this entire thing blind.
Actually, why not? I mean, I'll read the comments for you.
There you go. Nice.
Are you really turning your monitor off? Boy, that would be weird. I would feel
got it.
I would feel so creeped out sitting here with a monitor off. Doing this, knowing that people can see me.
Yeah, so we're talking about Apple and limitations. So right now, I'm using my MacBook Pro from 2020, Intel based, because I wanted to still be able to run Windows natively, and it's connected to a dock that has 3 monitors connected to it. And just to show how annoying this is, because my dock has a limitation on Mac OS, I'm seeing 3 duplicated views of us. So I'm showing up on my peripheral vision with everything too. So I can't get away from my stuttering image. It's just right there in my face. But
so you're right on the edge of potential epileptic event. I
might. This might be the episode. I don't know. We'll see.
You know something? When I was a 911 dispatcher a long time ago, sitting in there, everything was CRT displays. This was in that era. And I became aware of the fact through the medical training that I received, because I was a medical 911 dispatcher. I became aware of the fact that being surrounded by a huge number of displays can cause people to have seizures. I had no idea this was the case. So I became super paranoid about having a seizure eventually. Maybe it's like a slight mental problem I have, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I would be in there just surrounded by all these monitors, like every direction you turn, there's a monitor looking at you. But what really, I think, triggered this in my mind was I never imagined 90 sometimes percent, 80 to 90% of the calls you receive are for people having seizures. It's unbelievable.
Oh, really?
You would never imagine that, but
so it's top of mind every day.
Yes, and it kind of just made me a little bit batshit over the idea of seizures for a while there. So now I'm concerned about you, Curtis. Your welfare.
Well, just keep like that stutter might not be just the internet connection. I don't know, but I want to dig into that for a moment. So what is it about CRTs? Because there's a part of CRTs that I miss in terms of just that technology was better in certain ways for refresh rates and clarity. We did lose something when we went to LCDs. Obviously, it's so much more convenient to have an LCD. But was it the magnet? Because I mean, those things have a huge magnet inside them, or was it the fact that it's shooting a laser right towards your eye? What is it that was?
I don't know, and I don't know if this is no longer a problem. I don't know that the problem necessarily went away with the demise of the CRT.
I'm interested.
Maybe
if anyone knows, even if it's a theory, call in and let us know, because I want to know what the mechanism behind potentially. Because now we hear about blue light and how it's a problem when you try to go to sleep, that it affects melatonin, right? That's why you're not supposed to sit and look at your phone.
I think that's right.
But I'm interested in CRTs. What were their big issue?
I was actually on CRT displays able to see the refresh rate happening with my naked eyes. There was something about the way I perceived it. I could see it,
Nice.
especially if I took my eyes off axis and just soaked the display up in my peripheral vision. I could just see that, just the flashing. It was insanity, but I've never experienced that with an LCD display.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to think, like back in gaming, I remember when I got my first LCD, and that's when I was so excited for it. But I had a CRT. I think I don't know if you remember, Sony came out with a whole model of flat front screen CRTs, and they were great. I was playing like Warcraft 2 or something on it. And then I got an LCD right beside it, and that thing looks so terrible. I'm like, why am I going to switch? Other than the fact that now my desk doesn't have to be 3 feet deep to have my monitor.
I remember that era of the flat display CRTs,
the Sony Trinitrons.
I felt like that was. I'm sorry. Someone called, and I think instead of answering their call, I hung up on them.
Great.
Apparently, red does not mean answer. So please call back again, and I'll happily answer your call. I regret having done that to you.
Well, it's on brand for us, so it's fine.
I want to, by the way, thank one of our listeners, Trey, our first Patreon subscriber, and we really appreciate that. And it just one Patreon subscriber, the psychological flip that switches in my brain, just knowing that I'm in some way obligated now. You know, someone is actually anticipating, okay, this time the blue button. See, that actually went differently this time.
Interesting.
But I want to thank our listener, Trey, who has subscribed to us, who's become a patron. Is that what the kids say?
That's right, yeah. I mean, one of the things that we didn't really promote is in our Patreon, which you can find if you go to specsheet.tech, our website. We have a link to it there. And we try to link to in other places too, but go there for sure. But one of your benefits of joining it, first off, is that psychological switch that Michael said that we're now beholden to showing up and doing this show for you, which is a good thing. But also, you'll get to do a live Q&A with us. We're still working out the time of it. It'll probably be after an episode of the live show, but that's a chance to get connected, not be on the actual live stream, but talk directly to us. And ask us your PC questions, like why isn't your CRT refreshing at a 120 hertz rate?
I think what I'd really like to drive home is just remember our website, specsheet.tech, because it can be kind of a pain to try and remember what somebody's YouTube channel is, although you could subscribe to this YouTube channel, and that would eliminate the need to remember anything. We would just be there. But if you just go to specsheet.tech, I mean, I swear to you, it's got links to everything that you could care about. our YouTube, our Rumble, right, Curtis?
Rumble, which of course had a problem this week. I did have it set to go to it.
Well, yeah, we were supposed to be streaming there tonight. Couldn't happen.
But I did add Twitch, which I forgot. I wanted to go look at
Yeah,
that.
that's another thing. Yeah, we're streaming on Twitch now. There are some technical reasons we're doing that as opposed to necessarily thinking to ourselves, we got to be on Twitch. We've got some technical reasons we're streaming there, but we're there nevertheless. And we'll have some links to everything on the website soon. But if you don't want to have to remember where anything is, you can just go to specsheet.tech, including our Patreon. And I really want to tell Trey how thankful I am that he subscribed, because it really affects my psychology to know that people are willing to pay money for us to sit down here and do something. It makes me feel committed to it. It makes me feel obligated. It makes me feel like it's something I'm willing to put work into. And I think that would be something that's just going to grow on itself as more and more people sign on, as Trey has. It's just going to push us even further down that road and make us more committed to the final product and cause us to deliver a better product. So thank you, Trey. Specsheet.tech. All the links right there for you.
Go there now.
So Mac hubs. I am using a MacBook Air 15-inch M2, and I, of course, as a Mac owner, am saddled with the problem of only having 2 USB ports. And so naturally, once you buy one of these Macs, you're not really done buying your Mac. You then have to go somewhere. It really is. You now have to go somewhere and buy additional hardware that completes the hardware that you purchased from Apple, which Apple could have done for you if you saw how much unused real estate there is inside this brushed aluminum case. You'd realize how easy it would be for them to put every single port you could conceivably even maybe someday need. But no, you get 2 USB ports, and I'm even shocked there's a headphone port. I couldn't believe that there's a headphone port on
that
this.
surprised me.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, but the thing that's wild to me, really quick, you look at an Air versus a Pro, and other than active cooling, there's not really any differences between those devices. Obviously, you have more cores, more efficiency and performance cores and GPU cores. But when it comes down to it, like the footprint of the motherboard, which really isn't a motherboard anymore, but the system on chip and all of that is really the same. It's impressive from a manufacturing and configuration point of view that they're able to pull that off. But then it gets to the
why
problem.
are they just making that distinction now between motherboard or
well, I don't know. I could
SoC?
be wrong. Yeah, I mean, basically because everything's together. I mean, there is no your controller is all tied in. You have like your driver system. Everything is built for your ARM architecture. So it's just everything is so like your memory controller, your storage controller, your CPU, GPU. Everything is so tied in together. Nothing about it is swappable like it was and is still sort of on the Windows side in x86 or is x64. Let's go back to x86. But back then, like you built these systems that could communicate through drivers and machine code and work together and all of that. Like you don't need that in ARM. In the ARM system, you build everything purpose driven, and it makes it way more efficient. I mean, like we talked a little bit like quantum computing last episode, jumping into like Moore's law and the fact that you need to see a doubling or you expect to see a doubling of speed very consistently. The only way we're getting that now is making everything smaller and putting it closer together in the chip. So going from like a 5 nanometer to a 2 nanometer system, like your die for your chip, that's where you're getting your efficiencies now. You're getting energy efficiency, so the same size battery can last longer, but then also you're getting speed efficiency just for the physics of the fact that everything is so closer together. It communicates faster, and that goes together to make it not really a motherboard that has daughter systems all around it. Instead, it's your system is all tightly compact and together. That's a kind of layman description of the switch that's happened from traditional build your own PC kind of world to the ARM architecture the way it's being built now, which really started with like tablets.
I'm looking for this. I was just thinking as you were talking about the cooling benefits of this new architecture. I was thinking about this photo AI photo generation app that I installed. It's not really an app out of the Apple App Store. It's actually a downloadable Mac application that you install from a website. And it actually does what Stable Diffusion and Dolly and all of these other photo generation AI popular websites do, but it's doing it all locally on your machine. There's no internet connection needed. It's all happening right there on your machine. And I sat here last night. I'm sorry to the caller, by the way. I totally suck at hosting shows. I totally forgot you're sitting there. We're going to get to you, I promise. But I sat here last night just generating image after image after image, and I could not believe the lack of heat generated in this Mac as this was happening, this fanless Mac.
I can't even do a language model on my Mac. It's annoying.
And it was so much faster.
Yeah,
it was insanely fast relative to what I'm used to with a web interface with this number crunching happening remotely.
That reminds me, did you watch the video I sent you?
Which one?
The one for the a completely AI generated video for another project.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I did. Yes.
I mean, it's not great, but what do you think about on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being.
I would want to hear the content, because everything you sent me, basically, Curtis sent me a video that had a narration that was written by AI, and what the AI was saying was not the actual content. It was just an introduction to what was going to be the content. But I would like to hear the actual content, because I can't evaluate it based on the introduction.
Yeah,
I will say that well, I would say it probably kind of failed the test. I mean, it's very repetitious. It says a lot of stuff without really saying anything. That typical AI mistake that you see when AI tries to be conversational and sound like a human being. It ends up saying a lot without really saying anything. Although, having said that,
the intro is all I really cared about with that it didn't sound like the voice I wanted, but it spoke in the words that I would expect the model to be from. And like that first intro got it. And then, it falls apart after that. And it was all flash with no like real like texture to it.
Having said that, I'm going to come back to what sent us down this road, which was the hub that you then need to purchase for your Mac once you purchase a Mac. And I'm instead going to bring our caller on, because I just don't think this form of, treat people with dignity is what I say. Don't
Michael
don't
Van Dieven, treat people with dignity.
Hi, thank you for calling. Hello.
Gentlemen, walks the night. How are
well, we're great. Thank you. How are you tonight, sir?
Good. So you've been talking about some high Mac stuff. Drop her back down to the low end. Chromebook question for you.
Yes.
So use a Chromebook in the house, sitting on the couch and email from the web and stuff. And three buzzards after a while, they stop updating it. Went on got another one for like $100. It's fine, but I'm looking at the old one and wondering what to do with it.
I'm sorry, this is driving me nuts. We've got terrible phone audio here. It was great for 3 seconds, and then you started talking, and it starts cutting out on you. Hold on, I'm going to try something here quickly. I'm going to make a change, and then I'm going to make another change. Okay, sir, speak again.
So, what's that about a Chromebook?
Sorry, go ahead.
Better?
I'm sorry, Curtis is screwing with me with his voice changer, making me think things are even more screwed up than they are. He did this last week, and apparently I've not yet caught on. Carry on, caller. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, question regarding an old Chromebook not updating anymore. Have you guys ever tried loading Linux on it, and if you had any recommendations?
Well, you know something I would try if you would like your Chromebook to continue to be up to date and it's no longer officially being supported by Google. There is an open source version of the of Chrome OS, the Chromebook operating system. Book open source. Let's see. It's Chrome. No, it's called something else. Well, it might be Chrome. No, I think
Chromium is the base of.
It
Chrome,
is, but I don't think that. Yeah, it might be called Cloud Ready. If you'll just get on YouTube and type open source Chrome OS, something like that, you're going to find, or how to update old Chromebook. Yeah, search for that, because if you do, that's going to take you to people talking about this open source, freely available version of Chrome OS. What?
Is it Fuchsia? No,
it could be. No. At this point, there are probably 300 forks of this version of Chrome OS that are downloadable and usable by you. Although there are some disadvantages, I don't believe that you're going to have access to the Chrome App Store, which pretty much renders this useless in my estimation of things. Without access to Google services and installing apps through the Google Play Store, you've now got a machine that is a web browser literally and not a whole lot else as far as I can tell, unless you're able to install these Chrome extensions which I know you can actually put Chrome into developer mode and install extensions without doing it through the Chrome Web Store. So you should be able to do that same thing on Chrome OS if you don't have access to those Google services. But boy, what a headache, what a stupid pain in the butt, and what a mistake on Google's part to not allow that version of Chrome OS to have access to Google services. I mean, if you think, if Google of all entities should know that they need to be thinking in terms of growing a platform, inviting people into a platform, overcoming the network effect, getting people interested in something that they otherwise wouldn't have considered, because for them it's been Windows all their lives and nothing else. But that's what I would try.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't spent much time trying to modify Chromebooks because they never lived up to the dream of what they should have been, this completely lightweight operating system based on Linux. I don't know, I'll just install Linux on a regular computer and be fine. But
one caveat I'll quickly add, hold your thought, don't forget what you were going to say. I'll quickly add the caveat that the version of Chrome OS that I'm talking about is only installable, I think, on x86 PCs. So if you're installing this on something that's running an ARM chipset, I don't think that that's going to work. Maybe there's a version that does. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you go look, like I mentioned earlier, the website XDA developers. There's a lot of sites out there where people are putting their own distributions out there. Same thing with like Android OSs, because I've looked at that I have a Razer phone, Android Razer phone 2, and it's stuck now at Android 9, I think. What's the current version of Android?
What is it? 14?
14, so I'm on like 9. It's so far behind. So I'm going to install an open source operating system on it just to get it current. And I don't really care about all the gaming features on the phone anymore. I just want it to work. But so what I was going to say earlier is that what bugs me about what Google did with Chrome OS is the same thing Apple did when they went into their big decline without Steve Jobs. So Apple got into the education market and became the de facto operating system and hardware that universities and school systems all throughout the country would work with, and it was always contractual. So you would have the request for product, or an RFP or proposal, not product, change the P in that. But you would have that happen, and then it would just automatically be fulfilled for all these school systems almost without any thought behind whether the students needed it or not, an Apple device. And it was great for Apple because then you would get all these young generations used to your product, and then they go out into the real world, and unless you're in a really creative, like graphic design, video production, you're probably not using a Mac device. This is back in the late 80s, 90s, and maybe a little bit of the early 2000s, but Apple had this guaranteed income, and so they didn't really advance things for a while, not until Steve Jobs comes back and you really start to see Apple become what it is now. But Google did the same thing with Chrome OS and Chromebooks. So like they had this great idea that should have become something better, and then they got into the education market, and then the thing just stagnated like completely. Like today I would not buy a Chromebook. I wouldn't take one even if you gave it to me, just because the hardware gets locked out of what the operating system can handle over time. It's so frustrating, and that's where like the education market. We should really be giving students devices that actually are going to translate into what happens in the real world. Like that's why iPads bugged me too.
I have seen Chromebooks in use in an educational environment, and I have been terribly unimpressed with what I saw. And one of the things that I've been most unimpressed with is credential management. You'll have people that just show up one day, and a Chromebook that is supposed to be there, ready, and for their use only, they start it up, and it's as if this thing was never touched by them prior to that day, and always a hassle. Terrible hardware, cheap hardware, not well constructed, and also one of the really big problems with it is just the fact that it's Google, in my opinion. I don't think Google can really be trusted in many regards as a dominant part of your day-to-day life. In other words, I would say that Android being what it is sort of an anomaly where Google is concerned. The fact that it's reliable and the fact that it's maintained as well as it is, it's kind of an anomaly as Google is concerned.
Oh, totally.
I mean, every other product
alive, Yeah.
Every other product that Google has ever pushed on people has been allowed to wither, it seems, or has just entirely been shuttered. Products that even like the Google feed, what was it, Feeds or something? I don't remember what it was, like about RSS, 10 or 15 years ago.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something
I don't remember what it was called, but I mean, just millions of people used this thing, and it was just a way for them to store RSS feeds and or actually they could create an RSS feed containing the content that they wanted it to contain. I don't remember what it was, but millions of people were using this thing. Well, actually, I think at the end of it, there were about 500,000 people. What was it?
FeedBurner.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still
Google,
around, but it's been completely hobbled.
How's it still around? Google
just
bought
barely.
it.
I mean, because I just remembered I have someone who still has...
Did they sell it off?
No, it's still, like, if you go feedburner.google.com, it's still there. It's just not
Oh,
used.
It's not functional, though.
Yeah, you wouldn't, like, you aren't going to add new stuff. Hey, look, there's a feed. Oh, wild. Our old podcast still has a feed on it.
They had about 500,000 people using this thing at the time they shut it down, and the entire service could probably have been run on one Dell connected to a really solid pipe. I mean, it couldn't have been that resource intensive, but this gigantic multinational corporate enterprise just couldn't hack that. Let's go here and take a look. Let me open that. Let me copy the link. I need to have a better system for doing this, because as it is now,
that's just wild to see that this
is that our FeedBurner feed?
Yeah, that's so ironic that it's still there, but it doesn't have very many episodes on it though.
At some point, we must have that must have been because they shut the service down.
Yeah, man. November 8th. Well, actually, go to the earliest one, October 28th. 2020 or 2010, if I could talk, and then another one, November 8th, 2010.
We've really been at this a long time. I just can't believe that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, can you believe that that's 12 years ago for an episode of this show from back then?
Okay, so if we're done with that, I want to go back to this Mac Hub thing. Is there anything else you want to add to that before I do?
Well, if going hubs, one thing that really annoys me, because like I mentioned the problem I have even on the Intel hub, is that I don't run into all the same display problems you have, but I do have issues like the chipset. So Mac used to really depend on DisplayLink as its system for being able to share or extend monitors. And so I have a hub or it's really a dock that's designed to work with Display Link and have multiple monitors on it. But when I updated to the latest OS, now, like I mentioned earlier, I can only mirror to the other displays. I can't extend my display, and it really annoys me. When you're on the M systems, they really control it. It's so locked into which one of the CPUs or which one of the models you buy. If you get just the base one, you'll be lucky to get one external display. You go into the Pro, you can get a couple more, and you have to go to Max to be able to get like mini displays, like any kind of professional with multiple monitors would want. On your MacBook Air, is it a M1, 2, or 3?
M2.
Is it an M2 just base or M2? Can you even get a Pro in an Air? I can't remember.
I don't think you can.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not the base, though, because it's the 512 gig with 16 gigs of RAM version.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I wanted that is because when I always assume that if you go one step up on the storage and RAM, that the storage is going to be faster. Because Apple has frequently done that with their hardware over the years.
Yeah, you also have to think about with Apple that anything that's on the lower end, so like the standard base CPU, those are the ones that didn't pass the QA process to be the faster ones. So I want the ones that pass the highest level of QA that they have.
Oh,
so,
do you? Well, I'm happy with my failed chipset here, Curtis.
You don't get all of the cores that you wanted. Your CPU is meant for greater things.
I'm going to tell you this: there's nothing I've done on this machine thus far that it's not been able to do. I even what's the Mac flight sim app? Is it X Flight? I think it's been around for like 30 years. It's just.
Or do you mean Microsoft's flight simulator? Or are you talking about the other?
I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments. No, this is a flight simulator that exists on the Mac platform, and I think it's called X-Flight. And it's you can't get Microsoft Flight Simulator on a Mac, at least to my knowledge. So if you own a Mac and you want a flight simulator, you run this thing. And even that ran really nice on this Mac. I had to maybe dial the graphics down just a smidge, but not enough that it would affect my desire to play the game. In the Blues, I remember you calling into the Gabcast. MV kept screwing with you as you were spelling out your YouTube channel, In the Blues. He kept misspelling your channel on purpose. Cheers. I don't remember that.
Well, I now want to go to In the Blues on YouTube and see. So shout out your channel in the chat there.
In the Blues. I wonder what kind of things I was. I wonder how I was misspelling. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the variations I would go with on that.
Yeah, I want to go check that out because I see it looks like there's a guitar or a bass maybe as his image. So if that's blues music, I want to go check it out. We're open to.
My niece just texted me to tell me she has my children, who were in the next room until I guess just now. So let's hope that goes well.
Well, we're going to be on pins and needles until the next episode. So make sure to subscribe so you get that. Go to your hub story.
Okay, so I have now owned 3 hubs in the time I've owned this Mac. I've had this Mac for probably, 3 months, 2 or 3 months.
You're on track then. You are a true Mac user now.
I've had 3 hubs. The first one I purchased from Amazon, and one of the things I noticed right away is that I'd plug it into the Mac, and then I plug my display into it with an HDMI cable, and I plug my mixer into it with a USB-C cable, and then I noticed frequently that my display wasn't being recognized by the Mac. And then I realized, holy crap, actually, I went and I looked at hardware information, system information on the Mac, and I realized the Mac isn't even detecting the hub at all. So then I just, as a matter of chance, happened to turn on the mixer, the Rodecaster, which again, mind you, is plugged into, I was pretty anti-Mac and anti-Apple, and in some ways still am. Mm-hmm. In some ways still am. But holy crap! What was I talking about?
So I experienced the same thing that you're going through.
No, just what was I talking about? I'll pick up where.
Yeah, so your hub, it wasn't
Okay,
detected
so
until you turned on
as a
your
matter of
roadcaster.
chance, I just happened to turn on my mixer while it's plugged into this hub, and suddenly my monitor came on and was detected, and suddenly the hub came alive. And I thought, holy crap, this is insane. I can't understand the logic behind any of this functioning in this way.
So what you experienced there was not your hub. That was the roadcaster. It backfeeds power through the USB.
Does it really?
Yes. I mean, your hub, you're running into the problem of power anyway with a Mac hub. That's notoriously frustrating. So almost any hub or dock you buy, you want to make sure it has external power, which makes it not very portable, but that'll make the thing run so much more consistently. But the problem you had is a consistent issue of coming out of the USB 1 port on a Rodecaster. That thing backfeeds power. So I have an HP desktop computer that I used to use with my Rodecaster 2, and I had a USB. I had to buy a USB-C hub PCI Express card for it, so I could have it connected directly because I wanted to use directly USB-C, not the USB-C to USB-A connector that you can use with it. So I get that. My desktop, one night I'm connected to a Zoom call using it, and I power down my laptop, or sorry, my desktop, my HP desktop, and I noticed that I'm hearing the fan spinning on my computer still, and it's turned off. So I go unplug it from power, and my fan is still spinning on it. And then I turn off my Rodecaster, the fan stops spinning. Then I turn it back on, and it comes back on again. And so then I go online looking at it, and that's when I find out this thing will actually send power back through USB, which is ridiculous and probably against the spec of what it's supposed to be doing. But yeah, that
has Rode addressed this?
I mean, it's been where I found it on their forum where people complained about it. I think the answer was just don't leave your device turned on or plugged in when you're not using it. But that I don't know what their official response was, and this was many months ago. But still, if you had that experience that you just did, then yeah, that's what was happening. Is your Rodecaster was supplying power to your hub.
Okay, but why would the hub need power supplied to it simply to send a video signal over an HDMI cable to a display?
It's not
nothing else
to.
happening.
You should be powered by your laptop. So the port you're plugged in on the laptop should be supplying enough power to do it. But the Rodecaster confuses the whole thing. And I think Apple is really weak when it comes to their USB-C hubs.
But
I haven't used them.
I mean, it wouldn't display. I mean, I'm talking like with the Rodecaster completely unplugged from the hub and the monitor plugged into the hub, the monitor would just not be detected.
Yeah, that's low power. I mean, it's which is annoying. So that means that your USB-C driver, which actually is like a Thunderbolt 3 or 4, depending on your I guess the M2 was probably Thunderbolt 4. But for some reason that wasn't getting enough power. Was it running off a battery?
No.
Okay, it shouldn't. Well, even then, the claim of the M series is that it gives you full strength even on battery, that there's no like throttling when you're off of power.
I went in, I adjusted all the power options. I went in and I just adjusted the option to allow external devices to connect always. I did everything that I could find to do. One of the realizations I've had in the time I've owned Macs, this is my second Mac, one of the realizations I've had is that they are very not configurable.
Right.
There really is not a whole lot you can go in here and do about certain things that are a problem for you.
So that's why they were so great for so many years, is that you bought it when you wanted it just to work, but you wanted it to work specifically in the environment that you're in. So like creatives, like the thing is that if you don't install a ton of apps on your Mac, it lets you single task very well and not configure it in all kinds of different ways that could make it work inconsistent. It did exactly what Apple said it would do, and it did that in the past every time you wanted it to work that way. And it was just great. It was distraction-free, did what you needed, and then the moment that one of your employees is like, well, I'm going to bring this device from home, plug it into my system, and have it do some different thing, Macs just didn't do it. And that was one of the benefits. Like back when I used to support corporate IT, when my creative group came and said they wanted Macs, and I had to help justify their ability to switch to it. That's the way I explained it. Is Mac's single task much better than the Windows does, because Windows wants to alert you to everything happening around it and all of our corporate applications for communication. But when I have a graphic designer or a video editor that I'm paying to specifically create this output and I don't want them distracted, let them have a Mac, because they're not going to be able to plug in all this extra stuff that they can on their Dell or HP that's managed, where I get an alert that says, hey, somebody just plugged in whatever USB device. Macs, I can just shut all that off.
So I bought another hub, and then this one, another brand entirely. This one from Best Buy. In fact, it's a brand, I don't even remember the brand. It's not something I had heard of previously. But if you go to Best Buy looking for a hub that you think is appropriate for a Mac, they have tons to choose from with this particular brand name on it. It's not Insignia, Best Buy's store brand. It's an actual
was it
brand.
J-Link?
No.
Or J5?
No, I did consider buying something from them, but I felt like it was a little overpriced.
Yeah, don't do it for the price. It's not.
For what it was, I felt like it was a little overpriced. So finally, the second hub I bought that I purchased at Best Buy under this weird brand name I can't recall, I experienced similar behavior when I got it working here, and I decided, okay, well then it must not be the fault of the first hub. There must be something else going on here. So I canceled I didn't cancel it, but I decided not to return this Amazon hub. I took the hub that I bought at Best Buy back to Best Buy and decided I was going to commit myself to the first hub that I bought. Could never get this thing to work properly. And then at the end, it just stopped working completely. There was nothing I could do to get it to work at all. It was dead. So that got sent back. I went to Best Buy. I picked up one of these by Satechi. Yep. And the thing about this hub that differs from the others I purchased is this one plugs into the side of the Mac without cables, and it is flush with the surface of the computer, so that it's supposed to be a little more pleasant to look at, a little more pleasant to touch, a little more pleasant just to have no wires and awkward dongles and crap coming out of your computer. It's a little bit better. And this actually is working. And if you look around, you'll find that a lot of Mac users, when it comes to hubs, are having better luck with this particular brand than any other. This brand has a website that provides firmware updates for various hubs they manufacture when it's necessary. There are other hubs being sold on Amazon and elsewhere that look similar to this and effectively are alleged to do the same thing, but they have no website whatsoever. They're probably just getting some. I'll bet you what's going on is companies like this that are making hubs that cost a little bit more, but they're more name brandish and they're more mainstream and they're known to work because of the extra cost. This is a known phenomenon in China where they shut the factory down at night or whatever for this particular product line. And then they continue manufacturing, but without the quality controls that exist during the day for this product.
Right.
And without many of the other aspects that cause this product to be what it is. And then these items get sold on the market under numerous brand names, none of which you'd ever know, none of which you'll probably ever see again in any other context. I think that's what was happening with those other hubs. They were just garbage manufactured during the night shift. This is probably what you want to buy, at least this brand name, if you need a hub for a Mac. Look around online, you'll see that this is generally what everybody is having the best luck with.
The irony is that brand was crap just a few years ago.
Isn't that funny how that happens? Yeah, Anchor is one of those.
Right.
It was crap at first.
So the thing, though, with that probably makes it different, and what I want to ask you is your first hubs that you had, were they one port or two ports? Like, were the one you just showed is two port?
Two USB ports?
Yeah. Like,
they've all had two. One
really? Okay, that surprises
with power
me.
pass through and I think, 10 gigabit per second throughput, and then the other one that's 40.
Yeah, that's the trick, is those combining both of them fully power the hub and give you the bandwidth of one of the ports working full speed. And most of the generic ones you're going to buy on Amazon aren't doing that. So, but it's a ripoff because the purpose of Thunderbolt is supposed to be that you can plug one in, get full speed, full power. You don't need to have this device that marries two ports together. Like, Lenovo really annoys me with that. Their docks and their hubs very typically require you to plug into multiple ports because they have such high power requirements, and it really makes it hard to have multiple devices plugged in because like that hub also is limited because one of those is doing the power, the other one is doing your transmission. So the more devices you connect to it, you would think you would get double the bandwidth, but you don't really. You're getting one port that you're just daisy chaining a ton of devices to, and your video and all of that. All of those things start pulling from that bandwidth.
I really wish I had just gotten this hub to begin with. I like the form factor. It really ergonomically is much better. No cables, extra cables. And I found that is just so awkward to have a hub coming out of the side of your Mac with a cable, and then you got this thing that's shaped like a tampon on the other end.
I don't like
connecting stuff to it is so awkward.
I don't like having a device connected directly to it. I'd rather have I'm annoying because I want to have just one cable for every solution that I work with. But so like what I usually use, like I won't be able to do this when I switch to an M1. And one of the reasons why I got the Intel-based Mac, I like what Walks at Night said at Lenovo, that it's called value add. That's exactly right. But isn't it amazing how you go from IBM to Lenovo and suddenly a ThinkPad is nowhere near as great as it used to be. But it's supposedly the same device. But like what I use is an eGPU connected to my Mac through Thunderbolt, and then everything is plugged directly into the eGPU with a full-size power supply, and all I'm doing is transferring data, and it's a one-cable solution. But Mac destroyed that when they switched to M1. They don't have any drivers that work with eGPUs. So I don't look forward to that.
I'm pretty sure that we talked about my flickering issues on the Mac Mini that I used to have.
Yeah.
When I would connect a display to it. I went through three brand new displays.
Yeah.
Not a single one could I get to connect to this thing without flickering. And that was the primary reason I gave up on the Mac Mini, and actually gave up on the notion of owning any Mac featuring Apple Silicon. I will say, though, this Mac with the M2, none of those issues. I mean, it's perfect.
Well, the irony is, so I bought that Mac from you, that Mac Mini, and it's active today and still has been for ever since the week.
And the person who bought it has not had any of these issues.
It's connected to a presentation system that puts up on big projectors, and it works perfectly fine. It's got a total of 5
with everything I
outputs.
went through with that machine. Now you're telling me it ultimately went somewhere where it does something that hyper focuses on the thing that it sucked at doing here at my house. Okay, great.
I will add, though, it's connected to a Blackmagic SDI card. So like 3 of those displays are SDI connections, but it does
SDI? What is SDI?
Yeah, so like think about BNC connections. It's like high-end, high-speed video transmission. So the projectors are all connected to SDI runs that go from the machine back to those projectors, well, to a distribution box that puts them out there. But basically think about like production quality cameras. It's the cabling system. It can do, basically it's so high speed. You can have like there you go. You can have like the talkback channel running through the same signal with your program and return. They're great, and they can go really long runs. So like if you want to do HDMI 200 feet, you would do a conversion from HDMI to SDI with ball-ins on both sides that then would allow you to do that HDMI run full speed with no loss in quality.
It'd be hilarious if from now on when we do a show, I just put up a random Google image search with tech-related stuff as my background, and I just don't address it or anything like this, like right here. If I just, hi, welcome to the Spec Sheet. And
what would be
just
great
for
is like
an hour, this is what you see.
Yeah, well, what would be great is you bring up something random and see if I can figure out what it is.
Well, we're now at the hour mark, and it's been a lot of fun. I know that Curtis has to get up early tomorrow, and also we're just going to try to keep the shows a little shorter than we traditionally do. And I mean, I'm even totally open to the idea if we could get to where we can just keep these shows a little shorter and doing them more frequently throughout the week. I mean, but
well,
as of
down
now,
to the audience, if you guys want it, you go to our Patreon, become members, or at least
that is it. If you want
it,
I mean, yes, if you, that's how we will be communicated to with regard to the desire of the audience,
right?
Is through everybody's willingness to just throw a buck or two, at us through Patreon. It would be much appreciated. I think that's about it. This
maybe
is
I'll have better
Spec
internet
Sheet
next time.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, your internet is just bonkers tonight, and people. I guess yes, your audio is out of sync with your video, but it's not enough that I really even noticed it until it was said. But I guess that's just it's just hilarious to me that we're both using Wi-Fi and one of us comes through the experience unscathed and the other does not. And next week, because of the voodoo that is Wi-Fi, it could be the exact inverse with no explanation whatsoever. So anyway, this is Spec Sheet. Thanks for watching tonight. We appreciate it. If you want links to everything that we're doing, just go to specsheet.tech. It's our website, specsheet.tech. It's got our Patreon, all of our content delivery channels, from Twitch to YouTube to Rumble to everything else. Specsheet.tech is the place to go. Curtis, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Remember, Spec Sheet.